Good morning, Fatima. Here's your machine, the Breville Barista Express BES870. As you saw in the photos, it's in pretty good condition. Of course, it's a used machine, so I do expect some wear and tear, mainly around the front, from the cups going in and out, the milk jug, etc. A few scratches on the back here as well. But honestly, pretty good for its age, and I've done the service. It's spotless on the inside, no issues at all. And yeah, it does come with a 30-day warranty for your peace of mind. If there's any issues, you can bring it back. But yeah, I've tested it thoroughly to ensure that there's no surprises for you or me. In this video, I'll be making a magic coffee, which is basically a latte, a concentrated latte. Testing all the features, grinder, brewing, and steaming. So usually when you turn on the machine, it will take about a minute to reach temperature. You'll see the buttons light up. That means it's ready to go. But you can warm it up a bit more than that. So when the buttons light up, that means the boiler is at temperature, but it doesn't mean that your cup is or your portafilter is. If the portafilter is cold, your coffee may come out cold as well. So I always recommend to run a blank shot. Grab your cup, lock in the handle. It's empty at the moment, of course. Lock it in and press the double. That's going to give you a double shot of water and warm things up really nicely. It also acts sort of as a flush cycle, so the water, as you see now, may come a bit off-white. That's the reason. It's cleaning all the coffee oils and grounds that are stuck in the shower screen. And if I were to do that again, it'll come out crystal clear. I'll put that aside for now. I'll take out the portafilter. I'll grab a tissue and dry the portafilter. Your machine comes with all 4 baskets, 2 that are pressurized and 2 that are non-pressurized. The pressurized, also known as dual wall or double wall, will be slightly easier to use than this single wall non-pressurized variety, but those ones won't taste as good and they are a bit harder to clean. So I recommend people start off with using this one. It's the classic double shot 18-gram basket. It's the same one they use in the cafes and other big machines, basically. The other thing is that you have to get the settings right. So you have to use good coffee, you have to use the correct settings on the grind size, and you have to use the correct grind amount. So I've got a scale here to measure the inputs and outputs for your curiosity. Also for consistency, I like to measure what goes in and what comes out. So 18 grams, I'll aim for 18 grams of ground coffee in the handle. And when we come to make espresso, I'll aim for 36 grams coming out. So we want a double whatever we put in, but more on that later. Just adding some coffee. Again, I'm using grind size, sorry, not really again. I'm using grind size number 2. The grind size basically dictates how fast the coffee flows. If we use a super fine grind size, the machine may struggle to pour out coffee. It may give us very high pressures and the coffee coming out will be very little and slow. And on the other hand, if we use a very large grind size, the coffee will be too runny, we get very low pressure, and yeah, we got more coffee than we asked for. So it should be sort of in the middle. I've got it at number 2 now. You can go all the way to 1, of course, and there's another way to adjust the settings, but I think it should be okay at grind size number 2. If that's not the case, I'll just do the calibration after this video. And obviously the only way to know if you have the correct grind size is to make a coffee. So we'll make a coffee and check that. But I had a look at the grind size by hand last night, and it should be close at least. You can grind a double quantity. I personally like to keep it on single and do it twice. This way it reduces the mess and spillage. So that's our first dose. 7.5. So I'll increase it a little bit to 2 o'clock position. Before doing the second dose, I'm just going to top it up to 9 grams. Almost there. There we go, that's 9 grams. Press it firm. And then now we'll do the second dose at 2 o'clock. Let's see how much that gives us. $17.5, great. So that gave me about 8.5 grams. Anything between 17 to 18 grams is okay. It doesn't have to be exactly 18. And usually it's slightly better to go under than go over the dose. If you go over the dose, you'll overpack the portafilter, and then A, it'll be hard to lock in, and B, it'll be really putting a lot of pressure on that coffee as you lock it in. So it'll just affect your coffee brewing as well. So as you saw on after the first dose, I just lightly press the coffee with the tamper here, just to make way for the second dose. After the second dose, what I do, I'll just take it out and press it nice and firm. Make sure you apply even pressure all around. And the end result should be nice and smooth surface, even all around, no gaps. And if you don't have a scale, a nice way to know you have the correct amount of coffee is to look at the depth of the tamper. The silver part on the tamper should disappear when you have the correct amount. In this case, we have about 17.5, and yeah, it is disappearing. So you can just have a look and see. If it's all the way up to here, after you press the coffee and it's not going any deeper, then that's too much coffee, of course. And if it goes too deep, then that's too little coffee. Yeah, it should be about this depth. Clean the edges before you lock it in. Just lock it in. The middle should be fine, maybe a bit more to the right. Okay, just gonna get rid of this hot water. You also have a hot water tap, of course, to convert your espressos into long black coffees. This will give you clean hot water right from the boiler. You can use it for tea bags and warming up the cups, etc. And okay, now I'll be measuring the outputs. And yeah, we'll be aiming to double what we put in 30 seconds. So we put in 18 or 17.5. I'll be aiming for about 35. Give or take a few grams is okay. It doesn't have to be exact, it's not a science. If you like to add hazelnut syrups or sweeteners or sugars, do them now before the espresso, so that when the espresso does come out, it mixes nicely with it, with the flavor. So that's what I'm doing. Reset my scale. And yeah, let's make the coffee. So, I'll just repeat what I said before about grind size. If the shot, which is 35 grams, if the 35 grams of coffee takes, let's say a whole minute to come out, that's too slow. If it only takes 10 or 15 seconds, that's too quick. And we'll see that the flow is really quick if it is, or really slow, dripping out of the portafilter if it's really slow. And it'll be reflected by the pressure as well. I'm also going to reprogram the button for you, so this button, or these two buttons can be reprogrammed to whatever length you prefer. I will adjust this one to give you about 35 to 40 grams of coffee, which is appropriate for a double shot. The single one, I guess you can do it on your own, depending on your preferences. Okay, I'm also going to time it. So to program a button and change the settings, you only do this once, you don't do it every single time you make coffee. So to program it, you press program, and then the button you want to program. about 1 o'clock pressure. Maybe on the slower end of things, but I think at the 30-second mark it should be fine. It's nice smooth flow, consistent sort of from both sides. About 1 o'clock pressure, and that's 32 seconds. That was a really good shot. Let's see how much we got. 32, 31 and a half. Yeah, that's good. I'll keep it there. Quite happy with the result. Sorry about the mess, but yeah, that's about 31 grams. Good amount of crema. Could have gone for a bit more, maybe another 5 seconds or so to give me, 35 grams. But that's totally fine. This is still a good shot by my standards. What you can do, and what I will do to speed it up, I will increase the grind size to 3, just to give it a bit more breathing room, to make it go a bit quicker. So you get slightly more coffee from a larger grind size. That's a nice way to think about it. If you increase the grind size, you get more sort of flow speed. Take out the portafilter to clean it. Knock the coffee into it. Sometimes it comes out on its own even. If you have a knock box or even a bin, it's a light tap to clean this sort of basket, and then a flush which puts the single in there. That'll clean both the portafilter handle and like the shower screen on top. Do that once or twice. And when you're done, you can just keep it like that to let it dry. I like to grab a tissue every now and then and wipe the shower screen. Even after flushing, there's usually a bit of coffee left in there, on the sides and in the crevices. So that's that. Next would be steaming the milk. This is my milk jug. It's a bit smaller. I've got the one specifically for magic coffees. This is the one that comes with yours, the normal Breville stainless steel jug. Used, of course, again, but pretty good condition as well. I'll fill the jug about halfway with milk. A nice guide is to look at the spout here, or like on the inside, and just before the spout starts, maybe a centimeter. That's a nice way to, that's, I guess, a good level to fill the milk jug. To steam, the machine will take about 15 seconds to turn it on. Give it a few seconds. When you hear the pump pulsating, that's when it's ready to go. You sort of have to learn the technique if you haven't. But yeah, like any other manual machine, you have to position the jug at an angle, keep the milk spinning, and keep the tip of the wand close to the surface. So turn it off. You have about 5 seconds to position yourself, otherwise the machine will cool down. So I'm going to keep the tip of the wand close to the surface for about 10 seconds. And after the 10 seconds, I'm going to raise it. So that hissing noise, that means you're injecting air into the milk. So I'm going to hold that, and then after the 10 seconds, I'm going to raise it. We don't want to inject too much air, otherwise the texture will be too thick, too bubbly at the end. And after raising it, it's still spinning the milk, but not really aerating and injecting air into it. So yeah, keep it spinning until it's too hot to the touch on the outside. Just right about now. Give it a quick purge to clean the inside. Turn it back off. And grab a wet towel. It's now going to cool down. It'll go back to espresso mode. I'll grab a wet towel and wipe it off. So now the machine is basically ready to make another coffee. You can just turn it off if that's all. It's important to wipe it off straight away, otherwise the milk will stick on there and it'll be hard to remove later on. So the sooner you clean it, the better, in my opinion. Make sure you get all the angles, the back. Sometimes the milk will go all the way up here. So. And now let's pour the milk, see what we got. May have frothed it for too long in terms of the like the aeration phase. It looks a bit thicker than I expected. But that's not a bad thing. It's mostly technique. I'm gonna knock it on the counter to break any big air bubbles, then swirl it up to mix it up. And there we go. Yeah, not too bad actually. Bit of a design as well. Looks really good. Good amount of foam. Definitely looking forward to having that. And I'm sure you can do as good coffees, if not better, with this machine. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks for watching and hope you enjoy. Take care.